पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्तिः। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं वादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे
वन्दे
भगवन्तौ
भगवन्तो पुनः पुनः
ईश्वरो
ईश्वर गुरुर्गुरुनेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिनी
व्योमवद्व्यक्ताय
देहाय
दक्षिणामूर्तये
नमः।
ॐ
ॐ
शान्ति
शान्ति
शान्तिः।
शान्तिः।
गुरुभ्यो नमः। ॐ तत्सत्. So we are sort of coming to a close, and we were at the verse number 544. So we will be moving to the verse number 545, Viveka Chudamani, the last chapter. So he's explaining, the teacher is now sort of with his parting remarks on this whole sadhana, is telling his student, and the verse number 44, he said, Nirdhanopi sadha tushto. Tushtopya Sahaya Mahavalaha. So even if he may not have money, he's always contented, the Atmagyani, because he doesn't have any material. His happiness is not dependent on any external belongings. Now, in Vedanta, there is a two-way belonging. If you look at it, we belong to others and others belong to us. We belong to others, we have a sense of responsibility. I am the father of this child. I am the son of this mother. I am the son of this father. I'm a friend of these people. So we have a sense of belonging. And then sometimes you have that umbrella under which you see other people who should be responding to you. So some people belong to you. Now, either way, what this guy would say, there are two levels. One is that you have the Brahma Bhava, so everybody gets included, and you get included anyway. There is no spot where you are not there. So the word belonging loses its significance. Whether it's caste or family or nationality or linguistic identity or religion, anything loses its relevance ultimately, because you have become the universe. You have that sarva bhauma bhava. There is not a particular place you belong to. You are like the emperor of this whole universe in a certain sense. In what sense? Not because you control anything. There is nothing to control, but you have that sarvatmaka bhava. You are everywhere, and therefore there is nothing to miss. So, and many of the self-realized people, I have heard it from very serious devotees of some great gurus. One person mentioned that whenever he has any problem, he would receive a phone call from his guru that particular day. And he also always think whether he knows about my problem. So people imagine a lot of things. But the simple theory, how it works is like this. How it works because a person is established in that sense of unity with everyone. There is no distinction. The other technique is that you surrender everything that belongs to you to God, and you surrender yourself to God. So, at the feet of the Lord, all your relationships are made a part of your relationship with God. And it's a beautiful concept. It's not difficult to practice either. So, when we pray every day, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, we are included. All the people we love are also included. Our enemies are also included. People we do not know, they are also included. So, in a way, our love for all is kind of part of the prayer to the Lord. So that is another way of sort of kind of an inclusive love, where love for God includes love for all. It's not isolated from, separated from. Therefore, he says, Nirdhanopi sada tushtaha. He's contented. He may not have money, but he has that identity with God. He has that realization, and that is what gives him contentment. And then asahayo mahavalaha, asahayo api, even though he may not have any support, is very strong. Why? He has the help of whom? Atman. Because Atma is always Nirasraya, it's always Asahaya. Atma is the Sahaya of everything. God is Asraya of everyone. God doesn't have any Asraya because there is nothing superior to him. There is nothing superior to her or him, whichever way you want to express it. Mahavalaha Nitya Truptopi Asambhujano Api Nitya Truptaha. You have to break it the other way. Nitya Truptopya Bhunjanopya Samaha Samadarshanaha. So even though Nitya Avunjano Api Nitya Truptaha, he may not have taken food. Bhunj is to take food, consume food. He may not have eaten, but he's Nitya Trupta because again, this physical intake of food has nothing to do is his sense of satisfaction. That sense of satisfaction is coming from a higher level of immersion of the mind in the self, and therefore nothing is dependent on these external inputs. We need food, we need phone calls to deal with our loneliness, we need 20 namastes and 40 thank yous every day. The Atma Vit doesn't need any of these. And then what he's saying, Asama api samadarshanaha. Even though he may appear that he is a little, angry with somebody, or maybe he's a little absent-minded, couldn't talk to you properly, but he's samadarshi. Because this body is limited, the mind is limited. We are all the time trying to perfect our mind and behave as if we can see more than we do, we can think more than we do. That is an entanglement of our ego in this aspirational craving that we have. But the truth of the matter is, when we actually let go of all this, the magic starts to happen. And that is not so easy to grasp at the beginning, but it takes time. When it happens, then you love it. So, therefore, he's saying what? Asamaha api samadarshanaha. And then, this is again, if you look at the Bhagavad Gita verse, the verse number 17 of the Bhagavad Gita, which is Bhagavad Gita is 18th chapter, that verse is there. There's what is that? Just let me check. There's a reference I have marked that will come. So just give me 1 second. Yeah. Mm. So yeah, the verse number यस्य नाहंकृत भाव बुद्धिर यस्य न लिप्यते हत्वा पिश iman lokan न हंति न निबद्धते. Very controversial verse. A lot of people think whether actually Gita is saying that an Atmajnani person can kill anyone. No, he would not. Why? Because it's very clear. Bhagavad Gita says that he is sarva bhuta hiterataha, and by nature he is bidhe atma. He will not do anything violating the moral code because other people are watching him. But this is Stuti Paraka saying yasya nahankrito bhavo. Na ahankrata bhava. There is no ahankara. Buddhir yasya nalipyate. And whose intellect, whose understanding is no more getting trapped in the Vishayas is connecting with it. He knows that I am not my buddhi. Whatever I am doing, I am not this. Buddhir yasya nalipyate hatva pisha iman loka. Not killing one person, but killing this whole set of the whole army. He sort of exterminates. He's like a terminator. He terminates the whole army of Vishayas. And there are certain situations in life. We are sitting very nicely. We have white collar jobs, and we are, ethically protected by the nature of our job and the social protection and everything. What about a policeman who has to shoot at somebody who appears to be suspicious? and he's killing somebody's son or brother or whatever. What about the army guy who's giving us protection, standing at the borders? He has to kill. That's his duty, isn't it? Now, how does he deal with this fact that he's killing people? For our peace, there is somebody who is practicing violence, the so-called violence. So it's very easy to say Bhagavad Gita is preaching violence, but if you look at it, this is kind of integral to this whole human system in which we are finding ourselves right now. Now, you need law and order for an organized society, which means that you would have a system of reward and punishment. And there would be people to render that punishment to people who need to be punished. And there would be system, there will be imperfections, but there will be people on duty to kill. Okay, is that killing? They are doing a job. What kind of job they are doing? They are they are protecting whatever society they have. And what do they do with the kind of guilt they would have in their minds? Can you accuse a person who is the hangman in a prison? That's his job. He's being asked to give that lethal injection or maybe hang someone to death in India. What does he do with it? What does he think about it? And he has to read this particular Bhagavad Gita because he's not doing it because he hates that fellow. He has nothing to do with him. He could be very loving towards him. He absolutely has nothing to do with that fellow. He is just doing a duty, and the courts have given their judgment. This guy has to be hanged, and he's just trying to terminate his life. Yasya nahankrito bhava buddhir yasya nalipyate, and he doesn't get trapped by that particular activity. Hatvapisha iman lokan nahanti na nivadyate. And this had to be said in Bhagavad Gita because this preaching is happening in the warfield where Arjuna has to actually start killing. It's already the 18th chapter. And Bhagavan recognizes that particular thing is mentioned now in the verse number 45. Let's do the ucharana of this. Api kurbanna kurvanas cha bhokta phalo bhogyapi sarirapya sariryesha parichinnopi sarvagaha. More or less the same thing spoken in a different set of words. Kurban api kurban, akurvanaha. Kurban api, even though he may have done something. Okay, he eats, he travels, he buys a ticket, he stands in a queue, he files income tax, he's Jivana Mukta, but he's part of an ashram. So he has to go through all the legalities ordained upon him, required of him. So what does he say? Kurvan api akurvanaha. Avokta api phalovhogi api avokta. Now, it's quite possible that he was in a vehicle and he was going to give a speech. And then the driver crossed the red light and is given a ticket. Yeah. And then that punishment because he gives out the money. The driver says, "Sir, I don't have money." "Why did you cross the red light?" He said, "Sir, I was in a hurry because you told me that you have a speech at this particular moment. And there was no one in the road. I just crossed it, but then I'm getting an alert on my phone that this is the ticket. You have to pay the money. What do I do, sir?" He says, "Okay, you take this money." Phalavhogi api avhokta. But is this person affected emotionally? Whatever money maybe some devotee had given him, and he now gives it to this driver who has to pay the police for violating the traffic lights, for jumping the traffic light. So phalavhogi api avhoktaha. Sarirapya sarirapya sariryesha sariri api sariri esha parichinnopi sarvagaha. Now, this particular Atma, we are living in a body. Whatever you say, I say, somebody would look at us, he says that we are identified with the body we have, the mind we have. People recognize this. Okay, they might say, "Swami, this, that," but end of the day, they would say, "Where is your identity card? Show it to me." So the body mind complex still has a reference. and it's important, and we have it, we share with them. Now, the text is saying that sariri api asariri esha. Esha atma sariri api, even though it has a body, this is asariri, this is atma, this has no body. Even though there are reference to the body mind complex that we have, once we are jivana mukta, the atma, we identify with it. So we discard this sense of identity, which is there at the back of our mind. We don't take it seriously. That is what he's trying to say. And then parichinnopi sarvagaha. Now, actually, am I sarvagata? Because the atma is sarvagata, but I'm here right now. I'm sitting in front of a laptop talking to you, and you're listening to me. So actually, I'm limited in terms of time and space. Parichinna. What is Atma? Desha Kala Vastu Parichinna Sunya. Freedom from the limitations associated with time. That this is a time span during which we are alive. Atma is not like that. This is a location. Our existence is locationally determined. What are your coordinates? We ask each other. Atma doesn't have coordinates. Then Vastu Paricheda Sunya. There are no two, there can be two X's and Y's, but there can be no two Atmas. There can be X and Y different from each other. There is nothing different from Atma ever there. And there could be X and the tiny X part of that large X, that, Avayava Avayavi, whole and part relationship, nothing of that sort in Atma. It's Niravayava. It's not a physical thing. So Desha Kala Vastu Paricheda Shunya. That means Aparichinna. But he is saying here, Parichunnopi Sarvagaha. Even though a person seems to abide in this body mind complex, even then is Sarvabhyapi. Why? Because he's Atma, he's Atma Jnani. That is the message here. Now, there is a beautiful quotation from some other place. He says, Viveki Sarvada Muktaha. The one who has Atmajnana is Sarvada Muktaha. Kurvoto Nasti Kartatva. He may be doing something, Kurvataha, he may be doing something, Nasti Kartrita. He doesn't have any Kartri Bhava. No Kartrita he has. And then Alevavadamasritya Sri Krishna Janako Yatha. Now, two examples is giving. Alevavadam. Because lepa is when you get attached and you get affected by things. When you are Atmastha, he's giving two examples. One is Janaka Maharshi, who is a Atmakya, and one is the Avatar, Bhagavan himself, Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna was fighting a war, assisting people in the war, giving advice, was married, not to one, quite a few wives. Now he was affected by any of this? No. When Bhagavan says, those who do not know this, they are unfortunate because they think that I am a human being. That is their problem. Similarly, Sri Krishna Janako Yatha, like Aleva Badamashritya, the way. But so there is a hint to us. It's not that only divine entities like Lord Shiva or Krishna or anyone are free from any bondage. Human beings have also reached that state in the thick of things during their lives, like Janaka. That is what is captured here. That in the next verse is beautifully captured again. What is he saying? This is the verse number 14 of Atma Upanishad, presented here as 546. Let's do Ucharam of this. Asariram sada santam imam brahmavidam kvachite priya priyena sprisataha tatheva cha subhasubhe. There is a sentence in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Asariram vava santam na priya priyesh prasataha. Asariram atmanam. That atma doesn't have a body. It is without a body. We presume this Atma lives in this body. It doesn't live in this body, it lives everywhere. It is Sarvagata. But this is the way Ghatakasa, Patakasa, we have a habit of describing, and that's fine, not a problem. So, Asariram Bhava is saying, Santam na Priya Priya. What is Priya and Apriya? Something you love, something you don't love. So, there are two classmates of yours you had in your college days. One guy was your dearest friend, always by your side when you were in problem. And there was another guy who was trying to, pull your leg, and you didn't like him. He always criticized you. He was a source of mischief. It was a pain in the neck. And then you are meeting both of them in the marriage function of a girl of your class, and that girl was very good friend of yours, and she's marrying. Maybe there were two girls of your classmates. One is married to a best friend. The other one is married to your worst enemy. Now think about this whole situation. You forget your enemy and your friendship. They are gentlemen. Your friends are your friends. So you together smile, have a drink. You don't anymore feel disgusted about the guy who used to pull your leg. He smiles and he says, I used to pull your leg so much, and let's not talk about it. You absolutely are not affected by it. It's possible. That is exactly what happens to the Atmagyani. He's out of that whole conundrum of the ego self and the limitation which come along with it. He's Atmagyani, he's beyond these limitations, and therefore what happens? Priya Priya, what is Priya and what is Apriya, what he likes, what he doesn't like. Actually, he doesn't like or dislike anything. There is nothing called likable and not likable for him. Because likable and not likable, these two words will be relevant for a person with a strong ego self. Likes and dislikes don't apply to the Atmagyani. He only loves, and his love is truth orientedness. His love is not like emotional love. It's love is a state of grace and openness. A state of grace and openness. Love is not like emotional love. Love is a state of grace and openness. You look at the face of Lord Buddha, he's smiling, his eyes are closed. He's expressing a different kind of love. That love is love which is an expression of truth oriented understanding, empathy, and compassion, which is universal. That is also love. Depends on what you're looking for. And that is Nirapeksha. That is not targeted to anyone. And remember, he is dissolved in himself. In that state, that enlightenment, that state of lightness, of being, is a state in which you emanate the light of love towards everyone. Because why? There is no limitations of the egoness in you. And that is why he's saying, Asariram sada santam imam brahmavidam kvachite priya priye nasprisataha. This santam asariram sada santam. This atma, atmavit, brahmavidam kvachitapi priya priye nasprisataha. Okay? It doesn't. And tatheva cha subha subhe. What is auspicious and what is unauspicious, what is useful and what is not so useful. I mean, you give some food, and that's a beautiful advice and code of conduct they have in Buddhism, that if you offer them whatever they are supposed to accept, they cannot say this is not good for me. Maybe the Indian monks might say, but they are advised not to refuse. The Buddhists are advised not to refuse. The monks, for example, you offer non-vegetarian food to a monk in India, he would say, sorry, I don't take it. A Jain monk, you offer him meat or milk. I mean, milk they might offer. Yeah, they are not vegans. They do accept milk, but there are certain vegetables they don't accept. So, and onions and garlics they don't accept. So you have to offer what they accept. In case of Vaishnavas and in case of the Jains, Buddhists are much more liberal in that sense, because one of their rules is they cannot say this is acceptable to us and this is not acceptable to us. So asitam sada santam imam brahma vidam kuchit priya priyanas prisataha tatheva sa subha subhe. So there is absolutely nothing which they can accept or they can reject. This is the verse of Atma Upanishad, verse number 14, because again they're beyond the limitations of the ego self. Then we are going to the verse number 547. Why does it happen? How does it happen? That question might come, isn't it? So, in order to explain that, he's ex- so there's another beautiful quotation which is given in one of the commentaries in the Sarira, in the sloka above. Asiriram sada sandam imam brahmavidam kvachide priya priya nasprasatah tatheva cha subha subhe. You know, in the monks, the brahmacharis are given a piece of advice that if you are showered with a lot of praise, it's not good for your sadhana. If people criticize you, it's good enough, not a problem. Why apamana tapo briddhi? They say that a bit of humiliation, hardship, trouble, all these things make us stronger. That is also a very predominant belief in Christianity, that God gives us all these difficulties to strengthen our character for a higher level of spiritual sadhana. It comes very early in the life of people who are expected to scale great heights in their spiritual sadhana during this life, and that has happened in the lives of many saints and all. You'll find that their lives actually took a very decisive turn because they did suffer a lot during certain early phases of their lives. Like Swami Vivekananda was jobless at 18, who's lost his father and this and that, and so much of hardship, not only in his life but in lives of many other people. But that's not a universal fact. There were pretty well off people who also become great monks, best example being Lord Buddha. Now, why the jnani is not affected by what is subha, somebody is saying something good to him or something funny to him? Why he is not excited or depressed about it? He says, Sariram yadi nindanti sahayaste naramama. If there are some people are blaming my body, whom are they blaming, by the way? Either they're blaming my body, yeah, or they're blaming my atma. If they are blaming my body, they are targeting the body mind complex, then I'm happy, because they are useful, because I am also blaming this body. I'm not saying it's very auspicious. I'm not saying that this can take me to heaven or this can take me to Atmagyana. Nothing. It's useless. So I absolutely am not bothered. Atmanam yadi nindanti swatmanam nindayanti te. And if they are trying to criticize my Atma, the poor boys, please tell them my Atma is not different from their Atma. Atmanam yadi nindanti swatmanam nindayanti te. They are actually blaming their own Atma, because we don't have too many Atmas. We just have one Atma, unlike Sankhya. So if they are blaming my Atma, you have a stupid soul, the Advaita Vedanti will smile. The poor fellow didn't understand that he is hurting himself. That's why Vedanta always says that the Devatas, a person once is established in the Advaita Vedanta, they have to love him, because he's also their soul, because they know he loves the soul. And the soul is just one soul, soul of all of us. So they love him as much as they love their own self. They cannot hate Advaita Vedanti. So he need not worry that I've stopped worshipping gods and goddesses at the ultimate level. When he becomes a full Atmakyani, he doesn't need to do all this. The Vishishta Advaita person is a slightly different person who says, okay, I want to have this Narayana or Lord Shiva, or Shakti Advaita, they would say Kali, at least one deity I want to identify with. But they also know that the Kali herself is Brahman. It's not that she has the name Kali when she's Brahman. Once she's Brahman, she doesn't have the name Kali, and he's not different from Ma Kali or Lord Shiva or Lord Krishna. So ultimately, you have the Bhakta and Bhagavan game, which some people would like to retain with them, fine enough. But Advaita Vedanta is sort of very clear about it, that ultimately there's only one thing, not too many, and that has to be the ultimate thing, not us. They accept that Jiva is also Nitya. Advaita Vedanta says Jiva is just an appearance. Brahma is the sole truth, nothing else is true. All of the things, appendages, appearances, and the more we realize about who we are, the more we become clear that these things are not essentially real. That is why the Buddhists also are trying to say annata, get rid of your atma thing, the ego self, get rid of it. Of course, it appears as if they are speaking against Vedanta. There could be different interpretations, but if you are trying to, actually what they are trying to say is get rid of your ego self. And they say it's Buddha nature, we say it's Param Brahma. They don't agree with the language we use, even though we are dangerously close to each other's positions, despite some differences in language. Okay. Now, in the verse number, before we go to the verse number 4547, there's another relevant, very beautiful verse. Ashtavakar Gita, in the chapter 17, verse number 6, it says, Dharmartha kama mukhyeshu jivite marani tatha kasyapyu dara chittasya hiopadayata nahi. Dharmartha kama mukhyeshu, whether it is dharma or artha or kama or mukhya in all this, jivite marani tatha, whether somebody is alive or he is dead, kasyapi udara chittasya, so far as udara chitta means who is already jivana mukta, hiopadayata nahi, he doesn't see anything as relevant or irrelevant, useful or useless, whether it is dharma or artha or kama or moksha. How can you say that about moksha? Traditionally, the early people having their early initiation Vedanta would jump. No, he is not interested even in this whole idea about moksha, because bandha and moksha is for the guys trying to reach there. Neither bandha is real nor moksha is real. There's only one thing real called Brahman. Is Veda real? Vedanta real? Is Narayana real or Lord Shiva real? What is real? Once the mountain is real when we are trying to scale the mountain. You look at the mountain, it's there at a distance, then you are scaling the mountain. Once you are on the peak, where is the mountain? You think about it. Where is the mountain? You look down, you see the mountain. The mountain doesn't exist for you because there is nothing to climb. At that state, there is no God. You are on the top of Mount Everest. Where is Mount Everest? It's below your feet. Similarly, once you reach that ultimate destination, there is nothing to look for. Those are kasyapyu darachitasya, kasyapi udarachitasya hiopadayata nahi. There is neither heyata nor upadayata. Heyata means what you can discard, upadayata means what you would like to have, what you would like to collect, what you would like to invest your time and attention on. He doesn't find that way. Why? Because he's kritakritya. He has achieved whatever had to be achieved. Now let's look at the verse number 547. स्थूलादि संबंधवतो bhimanina sukham cha dukkham. No, this is printed in a different way. Let me, yeah. स्थूलादि संबंधो वतो भिमानिनः, स्थूलादि संबंधवतो भिमानिनः, सुखं च दुःखं च शुभाशुभे च विध्वस्तबन्धस्य सदात्मनो मुनिः, कुतः शुभं वाप्य शुभं फलं वा. स्थूलादि संबंधवतः, स्थूल आदि, स्थूल सूक्ष्म संबंध. So you are attached to a car or a house, you are reading a book, you have a certain emotion. So these are sthula and sukshma sambandhas, we have relations. Some objective material relationships of our physical body, and mental and subjective relationships of our body. Abhimaninaha, a person who has that kind of abhimana that I'm the husband, I'm the father, I have these children, these are my students, these are my subordinates, these are my staff, this is my company. Sukham cha dukham cha subha subhecha. For him, there is pleasure and pain, there is gain and loss, and there is auspicious and inauspicious. Something he would value, something he would not value. For whom? A person who has Thula Sukshma Sambandha Abhimanaha. Either he has subtle relationships or material relationships. If he has chopped or snapped all the relationships, what about him? Vidhvasta Sambandhasya. A person who has destroyed all relations because he cannot have any relation. The Brahman cannot have any relation. No real relation. Imagine, yes. No real relation because the relation you have to have two. Atma is everywhere one. There's just one reality. And what about these we tiny little things? We are not related? Yeah, from your standpoint, you are related. You are related. Brahman encompasses everything. It has doesn't have any relationship with anything. These are adhyasika. These are superimposed. These are imaginary things. So he's saying vidhvasta sambandhasya sadatmanaha munehe, the muni, that atmajnani, sadatma, he has that his whole antakarana is established in ultimate truth. It's not unlimited, intermediate truth, but the ultimate truth. And therefore, of him, kutaha shubham va api asubham phalam va. For him, what is a good result or a bad result? Is he looking for any success or failure? Anything good, any japa, this is this day, that day? You know, once you open up, many of these things actually lose their irrelevance. Sometimes we stop, we say this is a Tuesday, we shouldn't do it, or this is a Thursday, this is very good. Vyavaharikatvena, it's okay. But for Atmayani, what? I liked this idea once I was going to one of these big gurudwaras somewhere in Punjab, I don't remember. And I was entering, and I told one of the guys that there's a particular day today, and this is very auspicious. And there was this young Sardar boy. He's saying, Har din changa hai ji, upar wale ka hai. And I loved that. He said, every day is auspicious, my dear sir. Time is of God. And God doesn't give us bad time. It's our mind which is creating bad time or good time. I loved that. Very good hearted, simple hearted boy. But he has that very intuitive, clear understanding that he doesn't need to get stuck with these minimalistic kind of calculations which kind of bind us with certain preferences which restrict us our freedom. It better be open. There's nothing wrong. What is good? So the sardars, they don't look at tithis and all. In Delhi, most of the sardars marriages happen on Sunday, and I once asked why their marriages happen on Saturday night or Sunday, because they said that yeah, because they can boost till late night, have a party, the birthday party Sunday, so they do it on Sunday. They don't follow any tithi or anything. In a certain way, if you look at it, it's very spiritual. They're looking at convenience. Of course, the astrology and everything are all fine. That's not a problem with it. But if you look at it, you flip it. So far you hold on to it, it's real. If you don't hold on to it, loses its relevance for you. Provided you don't get bogged down by anticipations later on. Therefore, he's saying for what is Subha and what is Asubha. That is the verse number 540 47. Then we are going to the verse number 48 and 49, who are again taken from Atma Upanishad, verse number 15 and 16. So some of the many verses are taken from Atma Upanishad. So the verse number 15 and 16 are mentioned here. And is verse number 48 and 49, and I'll together read them and then elaborate. तमसाग्रस्तवद्भानात् अग्रस्तोऽपि रविर्जनैः ग्रस्त इत्युच्यते भ्रान्त्या ह्यज्ञात्वा वस्तुलक्षणम् तमसाग्रस्तवद्भानात् Now, what happens is he's saying, you know how solar eclipse and lunar eclipse happen? Are they actually covered by anyone? No. It appears as if sun was covered with darkness. Sun cannot be covered with darkness. That's a contradiction in terms. It cannot be covered by darkness. Tamasa grasavat bhanat, because it appears like that. And then because of that, Ravihi grasto, the sun is eaten up by Rahu or Ketu. This is how people narrate it during lunar and solar eclipse. Ravir Janehi, people see the sun as eaten up by Rahu and Ketu, who are very clearly mentioned that these are not planets, they are nodes. There are certain points. These people had a great understanding, the Indian astronomers. They use these. These are chayagrahas, these are nodes, these are certain points where the sun will appear invisible and then it will transit this particular period. They had a certain understanding of it. And they call it Rahu and Ketu. Rahu and Ketu, these are fictitious entities. It's clearly mentioned they are chayagrahas, they don't have any physicality. That also beautifully is captured there. Okay. So then what he's saying, Grasta ityuchate bhrantya. Now, so far, people are concerned, they would say it was eaten up by Rahu and Ketu. And why so? He agyatva vastu lakshanam. They don't know anything about astronomy. What exactly happens to sun when there is an eclipse? Common people don't understand. So they say Rahu eats up sun or Ketu eats up moon. I mean, these are imaginations. There's absolutely nothing of that sort. Now this is Drishtanta. This is an example he gave. Now he will take to Drashtantika about how the Vidvat Purusha or Brahmavid or Atmagyani is perceived by other people. The sun is perceived as eaten up by Rahu or Ketu, as wrapped in darkness. That is how other people see it. Same way, other people see the Atmagyani. Atmagyani, but I have seen him, no, he argues with people. And he's very particular. He counts his money. Have you seen him? Yeah, he was at a mall. He's a great Vedanti, but he was at a mall, and I saw that some change he gave, and he said, "Please look at me. Is the balance right?" So he got that some 20-30 rupees less he had paid, and he insisted that he paid the full amount. Vedanta is all right, but these guys are just normal like us. That he's explaining in the next verse. तद्वद्देहादिबन्धेभ्यो विमुक्तं ब्रह्मवित्तमं पश्यन्ति देहवन्मूढः शरीराभासदर्शनात्. For the real Brahmavid, there is a sarira bhasa. It is just an appearance. Abhasa. Abhasa is a imperfect, delusional, or it's like a projected image of something which really doesn't exist. The best example is when you dip a stick in water, it appears as if it's bent, refraction. We have studied about it, but it's not bent. The moment you pull it out, it's straight. Again, put it in water, it appears as if it's bent. Bakra bhasa, this is the appearance of that bentness, but it's not really there. Same thing is explaining here. Yadvad dehadi bandhebhyo, because the deha adi. Adi means you will take the mind and emotional behavior, whatever words he speaks, and all the gyanendriyas and karmendriya he uses, bandhebhya, vimuktam brahmavittamam. He is actually free from any identification with his gyanendriyas or karmendriyas or his body. He's not identifying. Even then, मूढ़ः तं ब्रह्मवित्तमं देहवन iti pasyanti, as if he has a body, he's dehavat. Yeah, he's very body conscious. He talks about getting rid of body consciousness. No, have you seen him? I saw that Guruji. He went to the bathroom, washroom. We together went to the washroom at the airport, and he was combing his hair. You saw it? Yeah, I saw. He was combing his hair. A lot of people mention about it. That Swami Vivekananda. In fact, this very funny thing is written about him. That he was very fond of good-looking dresses and all. And apparently, while walking in some streets in Germany, Kardashian writes that beautiful women used to look at him, and he appeared very happy. Look, and he was a Brahmavid. So he's saying Pashyanti Dehivat, as if he has a body. Dehivat Pashyanti Mudhaha Sarirabhasa Darsanat. And what is the actual reason for it? Because there is a Sarira Abhasa. They see the body, they make a relationship, and they think he's caught up in this body mind complex. Poor fellow, that is Prarabdha. So far you are alive, this whole game shall continue. However, the real Atmagyani is not touched by any of these. That's all he's trying to say. Now, exactly what happens then? That is captured in the verse number 550. अहिनिर् अहिनिर् अहिनिर्वयनीवायं मुक्तदेहस्तु तिष्ठति इतस्तत चाल्यमानो यत्किञ्चित् प्राणवायुना. There is this the tigers shake off their skin. They shed their skin. The cobras and other, sorry, not the tigers, the snakes. The snakes shed their skins, the worn out ones. And then what happens? That exactly looks like a snake. And it's very funny how they suddenly just escape out of it, leaving the whole thing intact. Then it keeps flying in air here and there till it decomposes in nature. That is what he's mentioning here. That is the body mind complex of an Atmagyani. How is it comparable to this? He's explaining. Ahi is snake. Ahi nirvayani iva ayam. Nirvayani is that particular, that skin cover, hmm, which he sheds. Nirvayani iva ayam mukta deha. Mukta deha is that Atmagyani. Mukta deha tu tishtati. So, what is he trying to say is the Atmagyani is Sarvagataha, Parichinnopi, even though he appears as if he's stuck or caged in that body mind complex, he is actually free. He is everywhere. He is Sarvagata at the level of consciousness. He has a body. What happens to the body? The body is comparable with the skin which the cobra or the snake has shed. And that means it's no having no. There is a physical relationship in case of the Atmagyani. In case of the snake, no, he discarded. That is discarded. Similarly, at the consciousness level of consciousness, the Atmagyani has discarded his body-mind complex. But there is a relationship which appears to be there. Outwardly, he is still caged in this body-mind complex. Even after Atmagyana, we will still be having heartbeat, there'll be some pain, some headache. Our enlightenment, our sadhana are not going to have any impact on how our body mind feel. Somebody might shout at you unreasonably. You have just come back from office. You don't want it. It happens to you. You have studied a lot of Vedanta. You have done meditation early morning. My foot, no one cares. It has happened to you. If you want to retain yourself in that consciousness, you just look at that fellow, ignore, you go take a bath, take a shower, have your tea, and you do start doing your work. Don't even pay attention. That Atmagyani would not. But it's quite possible that you may actually might say, what the hell is going on? Why do you do it? But you know you have nothing to do with it. Even if you say it, few words, or might get angry with that particular person for a few seconds. You're not carrying with you. You're ever free in yourself. It's just outwardly happening. That's what he's trying to mention. Mukta dehastu tishtati itastatah chalyamano. Now, like the skin flies in the air from place to place, similarly, yat kinchit pranavayuna. The pranavayu is there. This body mind complex sustains itself, so it moves from place to place. We eat, you go take a bath, and you come back, you sleep, you wake up. All these movements will continue. But the Atmagyani is not trapped in any of these. That's what he's trying to convey. And then he's giving another example, which is the verse number 18. If you are making any kind of remarks in your book, Atma Upanishad, verse number 18 is here 551. Shrotasa niyate daru yatha nimno natasthalam devena niyate deho yatha kalopabhuktishu. Shrotasa, by the stream of water, the flow of water, the force of that particular flow of the river. Niyate daru, there's a log of wood which is flowing on the riverbed. It's lying on the riverbed. Then a flood comes. Then it's floating on water. Then it may go uppish. It might just appear as if it's jumping, and it goes depending on the wave in the water, the movement of the water surface. When this water is in spate, it's not moving evenly. Depending on what's beneath, you have waves at the surface level. So that waterlog appears as if it's jumping and it's moving forward. It's going up and it's going down. Devena niyati deho. Similarly, because of prarabdha, you have what? Adhivautika, Adhyatmika, and Adhidaivika. He's mentioning Devena. Because of Adhidaivika factor, it's quite possible that Atmagyan was sitting and there was an earthquake and he got stuck in a, you know, in a building, and he needs somebody to rescue him. Why should the Atmagyani be requiring it? You don't ask that question. This is about that particular skin of that cobra. It's not the real cobra. The real cobra is always Atmastha. Atmagyani is not affected by any of it. That's what he's trying to say. Devena niyate deha. This body is taken here and there. Yatha kala upavuktishu. Because of his daiva, the prarabdha also, he would be taken for the experience of good and bad. Experience of good and bad things in life of whom? Of the Atmagyani, no. Of whom? The body mind complex. There would be, maybe he would be given a good dinner, he would be given good behavior, maybe good words spoken about him in a meeting, maybe somebody shouts him. We have already discussed all that. Atmagyani is not affected. This is all happening at the surface level. Verse number 18 from the Atma Upanishad. Then we'll go forward to the verse number 552. Here he's explaining, again, it has a lot of cross reference to other Upanishads. Yeah, this is 551. We have finished. Yeah, 55. Yeah, there's a beautiful Astavakra Gita cross reference here. 4.1. Hantatmagyasya dhirasya khelato bhogalilaya nahi sansaravahi mudhe sa samanata. Now, the Atmagyani and the Sansari, they may be going through similar flow of events in life. They both may be having a stomach upset or maybe having fever and they are admitted in hospital. But there is a difference completely. One is a bhoga lila, appearance of bhoga, but he doesn't have sukha dukkha bhoga. But for sukha dukkha to happen, he has to have samandha abhimana. Atmagyani has samandha abhimana rahita. He's free from samandha abhimana, so he's not affected. But there is a big difference, that's what I'm saying. Nahi sansara vahi keihi mudhehi sah samanata. Don't compare him with a sansari. That is Ashtavakra Gita, verse number 4.1. And then there is another version from Ashtavakra Gita, which is a cross reference is given here. Prabritova Nibritova Neva dhirasya durgraha. Whether it's prabriti or nivriti, or any karma he has to do, or he has to withdraw from people, say, no, okay, you go meditate. Va naeva dhirasya durgraha, he accepts, he has no problem. Yada yat kartumayati, whatever he has to do or not do, tat kritva tishtataha sukham. Somebody says, okay, please come, you have to do puja. He comes and does puja. He's saying, no, no, you are not required. He goes back, he starts doing. He absolutely has no sense of agency, so he's not perturbed at all. That is what is being conveyed here. Now, verse number 552. So, this is Basanta Tilaka Chanda. So, the Basanta Tilaka, the technique is actually in the Basanta Tilaka is 12, that is Arya Chanda, and the Basanta Tilaka 8 and 6. There will be 14 letters. So 8 and 6. At eighth letter, you have to stop. Prarabdha karma paripaka paripa prarabdha karma parikalpita वासनाभिर् संसारवच्चरति भुक्तिषु मुक्तदेहः सिद्धः स्वयं वसति साखिवत् अत्र तूष्णीं चक्रस्य मूलमिव कल्पविकल्पशून्यः प्रारब्धकर्म परिकल्पितवासनाभिः. Now, you might ask, why does the Atmagyani at all appear to be happy or to suffer? That is a pertinent question. If we agree that there is prarabdha karma and prarabdha karma is real, then remember there is Dvaitapatti. So there is Brahma, there is prarabdha. No, prarabdha cannot be fundamentally real. Let us, during the sadhana kala, you use the word prarabdha. There is a beautiful verse somewhere which says, for Agyani, whenever he suffers, he takes the name of prarabdha. For Jnani, he takes the name of God. He says, Ishvara Icha. So Jnani, Agyani, the difference, the Jnani, Agyani refers to Prarabdha. The Jnani refers to Ishvara Icha. One and the same thing. So what he's saying, Prarabdha karma paripaka parikalpita vasanavihi. So somebody might say that, by the way, the Atmagyani also plans, he says that I want to achieve these. How can you say that he has no relevance, he has no desire? Why did he want to do the Tirtha? Why did he want to go to Amarnath? He didn't want it. The police post stopped him and they asked him, you have your I cards and all? He says, yes. And he says, why have you come? No, I want to do Amarnath Yatra. You have to do a lot of clearances and health checkup. He says, okay, I want to undergo it. I want to go for darshan. So he had desire. And then he gets injured on the way. He suffers. And then he does darshan and he's super happy and comes back and he catches fever. All that he's suffering and experiencing. So he had prarabdha because of suffering. So he's saying prarabdha karma pari kalpita vasana vihi. First thing is prarabdha karma parikalpita vasana. First thing is that this vasana that he has are not real. And this whole prarabdha thing you are talking about, that is also not ultimately real. Because of prarabdha, whatever, he has an appearance of few desires. He wants to do Amarnath Yatra, he wants to have the darshan, he wants to go there. These are the imaginary. Actually, he's not trapped in anything. If you say no, you can't go, most likely he'll go back. He'll not have any problem whatsoever. But he wants to do the darshan. Genuinely, he has. Just the story, right? Ramakrishna Paramahansa he used to send his students. You go to Bhubaneswar, Gupta Kasi for meditation. Interestingly, he never went to Jagannath Puri. And he said, I don't want to go there because if I go there, I'll not come back because he's Dakshin Kali. But he didn't have any craving to go anywhere. He went to Kasi very interestingly. And I was very shocked when I read that statement in the ashram of Srilanga Swami. He came a long way from Calcutta. Do you know? He came on a steamer and you are trying to sail upstream. It's not easy. Okay, you're burning more fuel to kind of sail upstream. He comes up to Kasi only about 5 kilometers ahead of Kashi Vishwanath temple. He stops at that particular ghat. I think it's Panchaganga Ghat or whatever. He stops there. Then he goes and meets Trailanga Swami. He's a tantric. He's a great guru. He hugs and he sits there. He has meditation, and then he says, "Okay, we go back from here." He said, "We are not going to Kashi Vishwanath." He said, "No, I had darshan. I met Trailanga Swami. What else I will see? I've seen real Shiva. There's nothing more for me to go and see in the temple." Now, these are these crazy people. This is the Atmavet, You can't understand their Leela. So he's saying, Prarabdha karma parikalpita vasana vihi sansari vat charati, sansari vat charati. He appears as if he's a sansari. Bhukti shu, bhukti, all these bhoga vastu shu, charati, he goes. I want to do darshan, then he stops halfway. He goes, and then from Kasi darshan, he may have gone back and may have stopped on the way, said that I want to have Golgappa here. Quite possible. Bhukti su charati mukta deha. He's actually free from the body mind complex. Siddha swayam vasati sakshivat atra tushnim. But this Atmagyani, this Siddha swayam vasati sakshivat, because udasina vadasina. He's just watching his sakshi cheta. He's just a witness. Tushnim. Who is that? The Atma. And what is the comparison he's giving? Beautiful. He's saying, if you look at this wheel, if you have ever gone to a potter, they have a wheel and they roll it, right? And then they run it around and they have this clay and they move it and they make pot of different sizes. The wheel turns around, but the clay is sitting tight at the same place and it goes up. At the last point, that small hole on which there's this, that axis, the axis doesn't move. Now, the Brahmavid, the Jnani, his consciousness, is the axis of his Leela. And this is a beautiful thing that we can use to practice in our spiritual lives. That you be the axis of your life and your relationships. Let them move, you don't. Let everything move around you. Let there be stress and strain and a lot of work happening and everything is happening, but you be the axis. And how can you be the axis? As an ego self, you cannot be. You'll also move. The only way you can be a stable axis is by identifying with that Paramatattva, the Brahman. Then only this can happen. So with this, Chakrasya Moolam Iva Kalpa Vikalpa Sunyaha. So like that axis, Moolam Iva of the will, Kalpa Vikalpa Sunyaha, the Atmavid is free from all kinds of imaginations, good and bad, and Subha and Asubha, and Kartavya and Akartavya. He is beyond all that. And we have come till 5:52. Not a problem. Maybe it will take another couple of classes. So we'll stop here and we'll do the Shanti Mantras. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyati Purnasya Purnama